Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we're going to talk about the methods that aliens use to control humans, such as paralysis devices and Mindscan techniques. This is something that's mentioned a lot in the UFO literature, particularly in the alien abduction literature. There's a lot of discussion about this, particularly the Mindscan abilities. But there's a lot of famous cases as well where these beings, they're able to, point a device at people and then they freeze them into place for a short period of time. It seems like it's a control method. Basically, what they're basically doing is they're making it so that the human being doesn't pose a danger to them. In some cases, it seems, and in other cases, it seems like they're paralyzing human beings in an effort so they can do things to them that they wouldn't want to have done to them. That's what it seems to be. It seems to be one of their top weapons, and also it seems to be one of the things that they use in cattle mutilations. Obviously, they're able to paralyze cows or other animals, and then mutilate them, remove body parts, remove the blood. It just seems like it's one of their top weapons. This is one of the things they have on us that it seems we don't have this kind of ability. Could you imagine if law enforcement had the ability to just cause someone to stand still, some criminal that's trying to run away? If we had that ability, it could make law enforcement a lot easier. But of course, the flip side of that would be criminals would get a hold of this kind of technology as well, and they'd be able to use it to their own advantages as well. So this right now, it is something that the beings, this non-human intelligence here, is using this kind of these sorts of abilities or technology, whatever it is. It seems like it comes in many different forms too, as well. So I guess we're going to start. I want to start with a case, a very famous case from 1954. This book right here I have is called The French UFO Wave of 1954 by Graham Rendell. I highly recommend this book. It's just 1954 France was just unbelievable UFOs, sightings, but even more so, there were a lot of encounters with creatures from these craft. It was just countless. I mean, and this book has a lot of them cataloged in it. I can't recommend it enough. It's just one of the best, most interesting eras in this phenomenon that you could that we have. I mean, it's just, there's, after you read a book like this, I was talking in the previous show, like if you were to do your research on this, you would realize pretty quickly that there's no way that this is not happening, right? This is something, there's no question about it. It's been happening. It's been happening for a long time. But of course, the one story I want to talk about here is with regard to Marius Dewilde. He was a 34-year-old man who lived in France at the time, and this was there were a lot of articles about this case back in the day. But anyway, on page 31 of this book, it talks about what Marius Dewilde wrote in 1980. This was years after his incident, which occurred in 1954. And it says here, this is right from his book, it says, "It is Friday, September 10th, 1954, and it is around 10:30 p.m. I live in a small house in Croix-Rouble in the north of France. It is a level crossing house, so very close to the track." So his house was very near railroad tracks. "Flying saucers, I don't know, or rather I hear about it like everyone else, but for me it's rubbish. I am a simple man, a metal worker who only thinks of improving his lot. I was able to buy a television. In 1954 it's already not so bad. That evening my wife was watching the small screen while I preferred to read my newspaper because as a former sailor, an article fascinated me. It was about the Abile, an old vessel. Suddenly Kiki, my dog, starts barking abnormally from his kennel outside the house. 'What's wrong with him?' asked my wife. 'I don't know. I'll go and see.' I put down my newspaper, take a flashlight, and leave the house while my wife is still sitting in front of the television set. When I arrived in the garden, I saw on the railway tracks, less than 6 meters from my door on the left, a kind of dark mass. It's a peasant who must have unhitched his cart there, I thought at first. I will have to warn the station agents first thing tomorrow morning so that they remove it, otherwise there will be an accident. Farmers sometimes travel along the ballasted side of the railway to transport their crops because the paths in this marshy terrain are quite poor. At that moment, my dog came crawling toward me, and suddenly, on my right, I heard the sound of rushing footsteps. There is a path there called the Smuggler's Path because it was sometimes used at night to cross the Franco-Belgian border. My dog had turned that way and started barking again. I turned on my flashlight and projected its beam of light down the path. What I discovered had nothing in common with smugglers. Two beings like I had never seen before, barely 3 or 4 meters from me, just behind the palisade, which alone separated me from them. They were walking one behind the other in the direction of the dark mass that I had noticed on the railway tracks. One of them, the one walking in front, turned toward me. The beam of my lamp caught its face, a reflection of glass or metal. I had the distinct impression that his head was encased in a diving helmet. The two beings were dressed in suits that looked like those used by divers. They were also very small in stature, probably less than 1 meter, but extremely broad-shouldered, and the helmet protecting their heads seemed enormous to me. I saw their legs, small, although proportionate to their size, it seemed to me, but on the other hand, I saw no arms. I don't know if they had any. The first seconds of stupor passed. I rushed toward the garden gate with the intention of going around the palisade and cutting them off along the path to capture at least one of them. I was no more than 2 meters from the two silhouettes when, suddenly, springing through part of the dark mass that I had first seen on the tracks, an extremely powerful illumination like a glow of magnesium with green reflections blinded me. I closed my eyes and wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed. I tried to move, but my legs no longer obeyed me. Only my brain worked in a way that could not be more lucid. I felt tingles all over my body as I see and hear perfectly. Distraught, I heard, like in a dream, 1 meter from me, the sound of footsteps on the cement slab that lay in front of the door to my garden. They were the two beings heading toward the railway tracks. Finally, the projection turned off. I regained control of my muscles and ran toward the railway tracks. But already the dark mass that was there was rising from the ground, swaying slightly like a helicopter. However, I had been able to see a sort of door closing. A thick, dark vapor was billowing out from below with a slight hiss, emitting hot wind and smelling of ozone. The machine rose vertically to about 30 meters, then, without ceasing to gain altitude, it dived west toward Anzin. From a certain distance, it took on a reddish luminosity. A minute later, everything was gone. Of course, Dewilde, he went to the police and reported this incident, and there was a big investigation the next day. He said that there was some kind of a craft sitting on the railroad tracks, and the next day there was a big investigation, and they went up there to investigate. And while they were up there investigating, so some other things happened that went to, basically bolster his claim of what happened. So this is what it says here in the book. It says, the investigation of the scene is suddenly interrupted by a shrill creak, followed by a dull rumble. A train, passing slowly so as not to cause an accident among the crowds, has caused the track to collapse while its wheels slipped on the rails. The collapse occurred at the very place where the object seen by Dewilde had sat. The driver immobilizes his locomotive, dismounts to use the telephone in the courtyard of the house, while the investigators, amazed, note an abnormal movement of the track and the ballast. A few moments later, the driver exclaims, "The telephone isn't working." "I know," answers Dewilde. "It hasn't worked since the landing." "What is this story again?" rumbles the voice of a soldier. "The batteries, which look like new, are empty." Dewilde then shows his electric torch and his transistor radios, all discharged. Near the track, an officer draws everyone's attention. "Come and see this." There is a hollow, sort of bowl-shaped, over a length of at least 6 meters. There are also traces on the side of the ballast and notches on the sleepers of the rails. So basically what happened here, the train came off the tracks, and the track came apart at the area where this craft was sitting, and there were big indentations in the railroad ties, right? And there were marks on the ground, so there was evidence that supports everything that Dewilde was telling the authorities at the time. And there was something else that Dewilde had reported at some point later on. He says, there is something else too. 2 or 3 days after my observation, one found 3 dead cows in a nearby pasture, and according to the autopsy that was done by this veterinarian and a military veterinarian, the animals were drained of blood and no trace of injury. I saw the animals when they took them to do the autopsy. I remember that the vet told me, "You, with your flying saucers, you killed 3 cows." So people weren't talking about cattle mutilations at that point in 1954. But apparently that was the purpose of them showing up on those railroad tracks that night. They're apparently there to mutilate some cows. But the point of this little story here is to show you that this is an instance where some light, some sort of a beam came from the craft and froze Dewilde in his tracks so he couldn't get near them. And then he came out of this paralysis as the thing started lifting up into the sky. So there's one case right there. And here's another case from 1965, also in France. This is a very famous case, the 1965 Valensole UFO encounter. This is from the website howstuffworks.com. It says, in 1965, near Valensole, France, farmer Maurice Massé reported witnessing a UFO landing and encountered two small beings with oversized heads and slanted eyes, who temporarily paralyzed him using a device. After the beings and their craft departed, the landing site exhibited physical anomalies, including a concrete-like hardened area and decayed vegetation, with soil analysis revealing abnormally high calcium levels. The Valensole UFO encounter is regarded as a classic case in ufology, supported by investigations affirming Massé's credibility and scientific analyses confirming unusual activity at the site. And the article goes on to say, near the French village of Valensole, farmer Maurice Massé was smoking a cigarette just before starting work at 5:45 a.m. on July 1st, 1965, when an object came out of the sky and landed in a lavender field 200 feet away. Annoyed and assuming that a helicopter had made an unauthorized landing, he walked toward it. I just want to stop there for a second. Yeah, Massé had issues with helicopters landing in his field before this happened, so that's what he thought this was going to be. But unfortunately, that's not what it was. This is what happened next. He says, however, he soon saw it was no helicopter, but an oval-shaped structure resting on four legs. In front of it stood two figures, not quite 4 feet tall, dressed in tight gray-green clothes. Their heads were oversized and with sharp chins. Their eyes were large and slanted, and they were making a grumbling noise. One of the beings pointed a pencil-like device at Massé, paralyzing him in his tracks. The figures entered the UFO and flew away, and the witness needed 20 minutes to recover his mobility. In its wake, the object left a deep hole and a moist area that soon hardened like concrete. Plants in the vicinity decayed, and analysis found a high amount of calcium at the landing site than elsewhere. So there's another story, and there was evidence left behind to show that that helped support his Massé's report. And another case where someone gets paralyzed. In this case, he was paralyzed right when they saw him. One of them pointed some sort of a device at him. He froze in place. They got in the craft. They took off. He was stuck there for a while. He couldn't move. He could think, right? He could move his eyes, but that was about it. And it lasted for 20 minutes. So there's two cases, and these are just some of the famous cases we're talking about here. There's a lot of cases like this, right? And you read the literature, you read books by people like Preston Dennett. There's a lot of books out there that people have, where they have compilations of different kinds of encounter stories. And in a lot of these cases, there's people that get paralyzed many, many times. And then, of course, in the Allagash incident that happened in Maine in 1976, it was in the Allagash wilderness. I talk about that case all the time. I think it's one of the most incredible cases that we have on record. There were 4 young college friends. 2 of them were twin brothers, Jack and Jim Weiner, and along with Charlie Rack and also Chuck Foltz. They went on this adventure basically in the middle of nowhere in this wilderness in Maine. And they got abducted. They saw a flying saucer, right? They saw some sort of a craft coming at them while they were on a boat trying to night fish. They were petrified when this happened, and they started rowing toward shore. Next thing you know, they're on shore, and this big fire that they had just built, that should have been burning for hours, was almost burned out. And then they stood there and watched this craft fly away. And then they all went to sleep and forgot about it for over 10 years. And then some of them start having some weird dreams about seeing alien creatures. And then eventually they all realized we had missing time. So they sought out Ray Fowler, who wrote this great book right here, The Allagash Abductions. All these books, by the way, that I'm talking about, you will find links for them in the description if you're interested. So check them out if you already don't have them. But when they went under hypnosis, they remembered being on this craft with these weird-looking creatures, insectoid-like creatures, and they couldn't move. They couldn't move. Here, under hypnosis, Jack Weiner, he was talking about this, and the investigators were questioning him while he was under hypnosis, and he's asked, "Are you standing or sitting?" "I'm standing." "Can you move?" "No." "Why?" "I don't know." "Can you breathe?" "Yes, and I can move my eyes, and I can't move." So, and this is how it was for them. They were under some sort of alien control. And then later on, it talks about how when they did move them, it says this. It says, "They're moving me." "How are they moving you?" "They just take my arms and move me." "Do your legs move as they move?" They move. I'm walking, but I don't feel like I'm walking. Why don't you? I'm paralyzed. I can't move. I feel like his legs are far away. My feet are so far away. Oh, they move me out to another spot. So basically, he's under their control. He feels like he's moving, but it's not him that's causing himself to move. They're doing it somehow. It's not under his own volition. They're doing it, right? That's how they're somehow controlling these people while they're in the craft. And then in Chapter 4 in David Jacobs' book from the 1990s, The Threat, this is all about alien abduction. I talk about David M. Jacobs a lot. He worked with well over 1,000 different people who were abducted by aliens, and he has reached certain conclusions with regard to this phenomenon. But in Chapter 4, he talks about how these beings control the human subjects. He goes on, one of the things that they do is Mindscan. That's what Jacobs talks about. He says, a puzzling aspect of the abduction phenomenon has been the use of Mindscan to sexually arouse women. In Mindscan, which usually comes during or immediately after the initial physical examination, a tall alien places his face very close to that of the abductee and stares intensely at her. The alien can elicit a variety of feelings, and he can make the abductee envision specific scenarios of his own choosing. One of the most common procedures is when the alien uses Mindscan to elicit sexual feelings that escalate unabated until the female abductee reaches a high sexual plateau or orgasm. So basically, they use Mindscan to get into your mind. They basically stare into your eyes. They stare into abductees' eyes. They get in there somehow. They get into your brain, and they make you think things that whatever they want you to think. And then later on in this chapter, he writes, the alien's ability to control humans comes through the manipulation of the human brain. For example, when the alien moves close to the abductee's eyes to begin the staring procedure, almost immediately the abductee feels emotional and physical effects. One way to explain this is that the alien uses the optic nerve to gain entrance to the brain's neural pathways. By exciting impulses in the optic nerve, the alien is able to travel along the optic neural pathway through the optic chiasma into the lateral geniculate body and then into the primary visual cortex in the back of the brain. From there, he can travel into the secondary visual cortex in the occipital lobes and continue into sites in the parietal and temporal lobes and the hypothalamus. Through that route, the alien can stimulate neural pathways, travel to many neural sites, and cause the firing of neurons at whatever sites he wants. Brain stimulation allows the alien to produce a range of effects. If the alien can connect into the neural pathways, he can reconstitute an abductee's memories. He can inject new images directly into the visual cortex, bypassing normal retinal observations, and cause people to, quote, see, end quote, things that become part of their abduction memories. He can activate sites within the limbic system and cause strong emotions, such as fear, anger, and affection. He can create feelings of sexual arousal that build relentlessly to a peak, and he can institute a form of amnesia that helps to preserve secrecy. See, this is the ways that these beings are controlling us. And when you think about it, we had a pretty decent example of that just a couple of years ago when in the Las Vegas alien incident. I mean, after that incident was over, Angel Kenmore, one of the people that encountered these beings up close, right? He said when that craft came down in their backyard, next thing he knew, he was face to face with some sort of tall alien creature, 8, 9, 10, maybe even 11 feet tall. He didn't know how tall, but it was very tall, he said. And it would stare at him in the face, and he was temporarily paralyzed. And then even the father, Bobby Kenmore, he had told the 911 operator, he said, she asked if they had any weapons, and he paused for a second, and he described that, hey, he walked out into the yard and he felt some sort of energy.
Could you tell if they had any weapons or no?
No, I don't see nothing. No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
I see it so fast. That was so fast. Actually, when I walked back there, I was walking back to my house, to my yard, to my house, and I could see the energy. I couldn't walk no more. So that was kind of weird. Okay. No.
So there you go. I mean, they have the ability to control us using all different ways of doing it. It seems too. I mean, whether it's some device in their hand, in the Marius Dewilde case from 1954, the craft opened up and some sort of a light emanated from the craft. Was it a being in there that was pointing something, or was it the craft itself just Who knows? I don't know, but they have this ability. And then, of course, the Valensole episode from 1965, that was a device in the hand. And then in these other cases where they take control of people during the abductions, it seems like they're able to do it themselves. I mean, and even in the incident in Las Vegas. I mean, in that case, it seems like, okay, they were out of sorts, obviously, right? Something happened, something went wrong, and they needed to make some sort of an emergency landing. That's what it seems to be the case, right? And then when they're looking at you in the face, at least for a few moments, they were able to paralyze one of the witnesses by looking at him in the eyes. And then the father said when he walked out in the yard, he felt some sort of an energy coming at him, and he was temporarily paralyzed. He didn't say he was looking at something when he was talking to that 911 dispatcher, but he said he felt some sort of an energy. See, when you think about this kind of stuff, right, these are some of the reasons why I believe the people in control, I mean, I think there's a lot of different reasons. I think there's some nefarious reasons like the reverse engineering and all that kind of stuff. But I think that the people in control of these, the secrecy group, right? I think this is the kind of stuff they're worried about the world knowing. I mean, it's one thing hearing a story because then some people could choose to believe it and some people could choose not to believe it. A lot of us, unfortunately, we were forced to believe it because we know that this stuff is real. We had our own encounters, right? And some of us too also have critical thinking skills and we're able to put it all together and realize, yeah, this is real. But some people don't have critical thinking skills and they can't deal with this kind of thing. So I think because of the abilities that these beings have to control us, that's why one of the reasons why governments don't want to tell the truth about this, because it's just too much and they can't control it. I mean, they can't. What could they do about it? What could they do about this? I mean, we don't know what the range of this paralysis ability is. I mean, obviously they have some sort of devices, some sort of who knows, maybe some other things too, like where they could do it in waves from a craft in some way. That's what it seems like. It seems like there may have been two different things going on in Vegas there. The mind scan, basically staring at Angel, getting into his optic nerve somehow into his brain and causing him to freeze up. And then the father walks out in the yard and he just freezes up because there's some sort of an energy hitting him. Maybe it was emanating from the craft some way. Maybe it was two different things going on here that was causing paralysis. And then, of course, the mind scan abilities that they have when they bring abductees on board, they can't move. The Allagash witnesses, when they were on that craft, they couldn't move, right? And the aliens just, moved them around like they were puppets. I mean, that's what it seems like. So they could take complete control of us in all these different ways, using devices, using their minds, all ways. And that's a lot to take in for some people, I would have to think. And then on top of it, you have to look at what happens with some of these cattle mutilations. I was going through, you think about this. I'm going to pull some information up on the screen here. Eyewitness accounts and the condition of discovered carcasses suggest some cattle mutilations happen with unusual speed, sometimes overnight or during a short window of time. The rapid and clean nature of the mutilations, combined with other unexplained phenomena, has led to numerous investigations and a variety of theories over the decades. Yeah, I want to talk about this because a lot of times there's a lot of different cases you run across in cattle mutilations. Like, okay, there's the healthy cow, a rancher sees it, and then retires for the day, and the next morning comes out and the cow's destroyed, basically decimated, blood's removed, body parts removed, just like that. And then sometimes it happens within an hour. Somebody will see a cow and there's nothing wrong with it, and they come back an hour later and the cow's completely mutilated and blood is drained and body parts removed surgically. They were able to do this really fast somehow. So that's another weapon that they have. They can mutilate things really, really quickly. I'm assuming that they're able to paralyze these animals similarly to how they paralyze human beings, and then do what they want to do with them: remove the blood, surgically remove some of the body parts, and then drop the carcass on the ground. That's why a lot of times the cows have broken bones. There's no footsteps around it, there's nothing like that. Cows have broken bones, and then the aliens are gone and the ranchers are stuck scratching their heads, knowing in the back of their minds what this is probably all about, but afraid to talk about it publicly. It says here, the speed of events. It says ranchers have found animals missing parts like tongues, eyes, and sex organs overnight or during a short period when they were last checked. This timeline suggests that whatever happened was not the result of a slow process by scavengers. There's also a lack of struggle. The area surrounding mutilated carcasses often shows no sign of a struggle. This indicates the animal was likely incapacitated quickly and quietly, or killed by a method that left no disturbance. Absence of tracks. Ranchers and law enforcement have reported finding no footprints, tire marks, or other tracks near the remains, even in dusty or soft ground where tracks would normally be visible. This lack of evidence implies that the mutilations were done with equipment that didn't leave tracks, such as an aircraft. Scavengers avoid carcasses. An uncanny detail in many cases is that scavengers like coyotes, buzzards, and insects avoid the mutilated carcasses. The remains appear untouched by opportunistic predators even days after death, suggesting something unusual occurred during the event. Surgical precision. Ranchers and law enforcement officials have described the cuts on the animals as straight and clean, as if made with a surgical instrument. Such precision would be difficult for natural predators or scavengers to replicate. And finally, drained of blood. Many mutilation reports describe carcasses completely drained of blood with no traces found at the scene. This detail is particularly confounding, as a carcass that was bled out would normally leave behind a noticeable amount of blood. But as we all know, that is not the case in a lot of these instances, and that means these extraterrestrials obviously are working on some level that we can't even dream of, that they're able to accomplish these feats of of mutilation. And then, of course, I don't usually talk about this subject on here, but there are cases of human mutilations. There's not a lot of good cases on the record. There's a couple here and there. Does it happen sometimes to humans for some reason? Maybe it's accidental. Who knows? Maybe it's on purpose. I don't know what the reason would be. Are there some just evil aliens out there to just say, "Hey, let's just do it to a person. Let's freeze this person up and we'll mutilate him for the heck of it, just for giggles." Is that what it's all about? I don't know. It's all guesswork. It's all speculation. But again, I think what we're talking about here, it seems very clear that these beings have different sorts of weapons at their disposal that they use to control us as well as animals, whatever they want. And that's just the way things are. Anyway, moving on, I want to talk about some of the recent Spotify polls. And we're going to start with, for the episode, Report, Extraterrestrials Monitored Atomic Activities Before Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I asked this question: why are extraterrestrials, or NHI, concerned with our nuclear capabilities? 29 votes so far. Let's see what the responses are. Okay, 2 people, or 6.9%, say it's space weaponization worry. There's 2 people who believe that it could be that they're worried that humans are going to weaponize space, and that's why they're concerned about what we're doing right now on planet Earth with this stuff. 3 people, or 10.3%, say a concern for humans. They're basically concerned about what we're doing to ourselves, and they don't want to see us destroy ourselves. Okay, 6 people, or 20.7%, say cosmic chain reactions. It could be that maybe these beings are concerned that if we keep detonating atomic bombs or nuclear bombs, that it could have some sort of a chain reaction that resonates throughout the galaxy, and who knows what. Maybe it causes issues in other places. Another 6 people, or 20.7%, says other, and the majority, 12 people, or 41.4%, say they live here too. I'm going to go with the majority on this one. I think it's because they live here too. They're concerned about, they're here with their hybridization program, trying to take us over from within, possibly, right? And they don't want us to blow this whole thing up before they're done their project. Maybe that's what it's all about. So I agree with the majority. Okay, moving on. Okay, for the episode Escape from Las Vegas, how the extraterrestrials got out before the cops arrived, I asked this question: did other aliens and other craft come to the rescue of the ETs that landed in a Las Vegas backyard in 2023? 32 votes so far with 21 days left. Let's see what it says. Okay, 9 people, or 28.1%, say no, while 23 people, or 71.9%, say yes. As I don't need to get into this again, I made it very clear that I believe that is most likely what happened, so I agree with the majority, yes. Okay, next. For the episode, Enigma Labs collected over 8,000 orb reports across the United States / Vegas alien update. I asked this question: what are these orbs anyway? There are 26 votes so far with 23 days left. Okay, let's see here. 2 people, or 7.7%, say other. 3 people, or 11.5%, say they are human technology. 4 people, or 15.4%, say misidentifications. Another 4 people, or 15.4%, say planet defense devices. That's basically that Patrick Jackson theory where he says that these things are put here to protect. They're like a global defense network that tries to knock down any sort of threats to the planet. So that's what 4 people are saying that. And then the majority people, 13 or 50%, say it's NHI technology. I think that's what it is too. I think it's not, just my opinion doesn't make me right. I believe it's non-human intelligent technology. I don't know what its purpose is. It could be surveillance devices. Who knows? We really can't say. But I think it's NHI technology. But again, that doesn't make me right. Maybe Patrick Jackson's correct too. I like his theory actually. I think it's very interesting, and it deserves more investigation and interest from the scientific community. Okay, for the episode, CGI expert reveals experiences with UFOs, ETs, missing time, and possible alien abduction. I asked this question: Did you believe? Yeah, I actually wrote this out wrong. I should have been. Do you believe you have been the recipient of an alien implant? 30 votes so far, with 23 days left. Okay, 9 people, or 30%, say yes, while the majority, 21 or 70%, say no. I don't know. I'd have to say no, or I hope not. But I'm going to go with no for me too. But yes, I think there's people who have implants. I mean, we've seen the Jeremy Corbell documentary, right? Patient 19 or Patient 17. I can't think of it right offhand here, where he had Dr. Roger Lear removing alien implants from people, and they were unearthly. Obviously, it's real, right? There's no question about it. And in fact, in that show we were talking about, it seems like it's possible that even Jamie O'Neill, who was talking about these experiences, he may have had an alien implant, and apparently his mother had one too. There was something came out of her nose, some sort of a round little BB or something. After an experience. So yeah, obviously this is happening. Yeah, they're putting implants in people. There's no question about it. I mean, we actually have evidence of it. I mean, I think the evidence was presented in that documentary by Jeremy Corbell. They're here. We know they're here. We have proof, right? Right. So yeah, alien implants are real. It's a real thing, and also that means there are people out there that have these in them. And how many different people, abductees, have talked about these creatures in some of these abduction stories? Creatures putting these objects in. They remember it happening. Or a lot of times they remember it under hypnosis, but it's happening. Okay, and now for the episode, every aspect of the UFO extraterrestrial phenomenon is fascinating. I asked this question: of the choices below, what draws you the most into the UFO rabbit hole? 24 votes so far, with 25 days left. Okay, 0 people say cattle mutilations. Yeah, I mean, who wants to... I don't think that's the biggest reason to get involved, right? 1 person, or 4.2%, say UFO reports. 2 people, or 8.3%, say community personalities. Another 2 people, or 8.3%, say the cover-up. Yeah, the cover-up. All of this stuff is fascinating, right? 4 people, or 16.7%, say alien abductions is what fascinates them the most. 7 people, or 29.2%, say the beings. Yeah, how could you go wrong there? I mean... a lot of people just say the encounters with humanoids is really what interests them. I mean, if you listen to Preston Dennett's show, he always says that. He says what interests him the most are the cases involving encounters with these creatures. That's what he likes the most. And then the majority, 8 people, or 33.3%, everything. Yeah, and that was the point of my show. Obviously, I say everything as well. I think all of it to me is fascinating. Everything about this whole subject is completely, absolutely interesting. There's nothing. I like all aspects of it. I like to, explore all avenues of this phenomenon. It's just fascinating to me. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.